So before we begin, I want to remind you to like, subscribe, and hit the bell notification so you can be made aware every time we put out a new video. And remember to check us out on Instagram, and now you can also find us on Facebook for exclusive content. Let's get to it. Hey everybody, and welcome to another edition of All Things Universal Orlando. Today we're going to be looking at the top 5 attractions that have been retired, in particular on the studio side of things. So no Islands of Adventure attractions here. So Dragon Challenge, Dueling Dragons, that's not going to be mentioned here, although I do miss that. But I'm pretty happy with what's replaced it. In any event, we're going to be looking at the top 5 retired attractions from the studio side, and there's quite a few of them. Now, these are just my top 5. You might have a different top 5. And we're not going to be focusing on a lot of shows or things like that. I'm not going to be talking about the Swamp Thing set or the Psycho House that used to be there, any of those kind of things. These are essentially rides or primarily attractions that you used to be able to go on that you can't anymore. And so, let's get right to it.
Great Scott, number 5.
The 5th retired attraction at Universal Studios Florida is Twister Ride It Out. This was an awesome attraction. It was kind of a show, kind of a ride. It was almost a hybrid. What was really cool about it, in my opinion, was that they really did capture the element, or what I believe the element would be, to go through a major high category twister. Now, I've never lived through that, so I really can't say how accurate it was, but we're told that it was reasonably accurate. And of course, there's the iconic scene with the cow flying across the screen and the gas station catching on fire and explosions and rain and high wind and the ground moving underneath you. I'd been on the attraction multiple times, and I was frankly sad to see it go. It was replaced by Jimmy Fallon, which is a good attraction, and I like Jimmy Fallon. It gets a lot of hate, I think, because it replaced such an iconic attraction in Twister. But even Twister wasn't the original one. Twister Ride It Out replaced Ghostbusters, but I liked that one too, and I remember that as long ago as it was. It was a great show, but here we're talking about Twister Ride It Out. This is number 5 because it's iconic. And it is good. It was a long-running attraction, 17 minutes, not unlike Jimmy Fallon. Long stretches of time. The only bad part about Twister Ride It Out is you didn't sit down, you were standing the whole time. And 17 minutes is kind of a long time to stand, certainly when you're standing still at some points. But it was great. The feeling that you got, you certainly could feel the roar of the thunder or of the twister. You could feel the heat of the exploding gas station and the fire. It was an element of terror that was involved in there, except you were surrounded by so many people, you knew you were safe. But then the ground started moving and you'd get wet from the spray. It was just a wonderful attraction where they really took you in. The pre-show was good too, hosted by Bill Paxton and Helen Hunt, cast members from the movie, and it was excellent. The opening date for Twister Ride It Out was May 4th of 98, and it closed on November 1st, 2015, like I said, to make way for Race Through New York starring Jimmy Fallon. It was a tremendous ride. Not the best thing that they've ever had there. In fact, there's things better there now, but it was really good, and I regret that we can't go on it anymore. And so for all of those reasons, Twister Ride It Out is the 5th attraction that's been retired at Universal Studios. Number 4 is an oldie but a goodie. One of my favorite rides of all time. I was actually surprised it wasn't number 4, but when you hear 3, 2, and 1, you'll understand. The Fantastic World of Hanna-Barbera. I loved this attraction and hated to see it go. This is where you currently find Despicable Me, Minion Mayhem, and where Jimmy Neutron's Nicktoon Blast used to be. This was the original attraction. It opened June 7th of 1990 and it closed October 20th of 2002. And on this simulator ride, the same theater was used, the same ride cart was used, the same concept was used as you have now. A simulator ride that it was one of the original attractions. The storyline was that Dee Dastardly and Muttley have kidnapped Elroy Jetson from the Jetsons, a cartoon I grew up with. And it would take you through, and Yogi Bear and Boo Boo were chasing them. And it would take you through space through the Jetsons. It would take you through a haunted mansion with Scooby-Doo. And then you would come together also with in going through Bedrock with the Flintstones. See, I grew up with those cartoons and I loved this attraction. It was a no miss for me. I never missed it. The first thing I did when I went into studios, I'd wait in line for this. This is one of those rare attractions I'd wait a long time for. Now, I liked Jimmy Neutron that replaced it, and I used to like Despicable Me, but since they've gotten rid of the 3D, I don't even go on it anymore. It's just, to me, it's really lost its edge. I know a lot of people would complain of motion sickness and say it's better now without the 3D. I never struggled with that, so I didn't have that issue. But with Fantastic World of Hanna-Barbera, this is a great attraction, and you can find videos of it on YouTube, and you'll see what I mean. I don't know what I liked better, whether it was going through a haunted mansion in Scooby-Doo or the streets of Bedrock. The Jetsons was cool, but not as cool as the others. It was just a fun ride, family-friendly, and it was exciting. It was one of the first virtual simulators that I'd personally ever been on, and it changed the way I viewed theme parks. This was a great attraction, and I hated, like I say, to see it go. And for all of those reasons, the Fantastic World of Hanna-Barbera comes in at number 4.
Top 10 gigawatts. It's number 3.
Number 3 is Back to the Future, the ride. Now, I know some of you are going to be upset. For a lot of you, this is going to be number 1, but just hear me out. I loved this attraction. I missed this attraction. But as a Simpsons fan, I also like the Simpsons ride, which I know is not an overly popular ride. But when Back to the Future, the ride went away, it opened up the whole groundbreaking area for Springfield, which I think is one of the highest themed areas of any theme park. In fact, I think next to the Harry Potter editions, this is next. I mean, it's amazing. It's like as close as you could be to being in a cartoon without actually being there. Back to the Future opened May 2nd, 1991, so it wasn't original to the opening of the park, and it closed March 30th of 2007, so it had a nice long run. Created by Intamin, which Universal has used almost exclusively lately to create many of the new ride systems, and then you had the big OmniMax screen, which was similar to what you saw at Hanna-Barbera, similar to what you see in Despicable Me. But it's the same screen that we now have the Simpsons ride in. And this was just a tremendously iconic theme. Steven Spielberg was instrumental in bringing this attraction to the theme park, and it featured a story where basically Biff had stolen a DeLorean time machine and you had to go and get him and bump him before he created havoc. That's really the guts. The queue was not so bad, but the pre-story was good and things like that made it a little better than the Simpsons ride is today, in my opinion. So when I think about Back to the Future and would I like it to come back and would I be happy if it replaced The Simpsons? Yes and no. I really wouldn't want to give up the Simpsons ride, and I certainly wouldn't want to give up Springfield, but I'd like to have Back to the Future come back. It'd be really nice if they could have like Throwback Month or something like that where they brought all these attractions back, if they could just put the film in there. I don't know if they can, but that'd be awesome. Or maybe over at Epic Universe, just create a retired attractions land and see. But the problem is this: they retired these attractions because of a lack of popularity. And so that tells me that they ran their course, and I can accept that. Universal's done a great job of giving us new, updated attractions, with a couple of exceptions. To me, this isn't one of the exceptions. I think the Springfield ride the Simpsons ride is good, and I think Springfield is great. But I still miss Back to the Future. It was, in my opinion, overall, a better attraction, pound for pound. And for all those reasons, Back to the Future the ride comes in at number 3.
Well, here's number 2.
Number 2, Jaws the ride. Actually, it's not even the ride, it's just called Jaws. I loved this attraction. It never worked, but I loved this attraction. I remember going when the park first opened and not being able to get on it because it was broken down. And then a little bit later, a few years later, they completely redid the ride with a different manufacturer. Intamin again came in and saved the day. And it made it a great attraction, and then it became one I never missed. The ride uses tour boats to take guests through the harbor of a fictional Amity Island, and you point out Chief Brody's house and all of these things, and then of course the shark attacks you, and there's fire elements and fear elements, and your boat captain had a shotgun that he would shoot at the shark, and eventually you win at the end of the day and you kill the shark. But even Amity was really well themed. Now I know that it went away, and it went away for good purposes. But boy, I really miss Jaws. It was just phenomenal. It opened June 7th of 1990, an opening day attraction. It closed January 2nd, 2012. Created initially by MCA Planning and Development, but then Intamin came in and redesigned the ride, and it worked much better after that. Had a ride time of 5 minutes, and it was replaced with Diagon Alley, and now what we have is Harry Potter and the Escape from Gringotts, which again, to me, kind of an underwhelming attraction. A great land, and I wouldn't change it. But the ride, Gringotts compared to Jaws, I like Jaws better. But in any event, it's an original attraction, and it's a great attraction, and it's a highly themed Universal property. And so there was just nostalgia to it, and the concept of, again, Spielberg and the popularity. Remember, the movie Jaws at that time, at the opening, wasn't as old and dated as it is now. And so that was all captured at the time that it became an attraction. And there was an element, even though the shark looked fake, that was still fearful. You still got scared on this ride, and it captured that. And there was humorous elements that the boat captain or the ship captain would provide for you as well. It was a fun attraction, and I miss it. I wish it was still there. For all of those reasons, Jaws comes in at number 2. Now, before I get to number 1, I have an honorable mention. I'll count down the top 5 so far and then give you the honorable mention. Number 5 is Twister Ride It Out. I've already told you why. Number 4, The Fantastic World of Hanna-Barbera. A classic, one of my favorites. Probably should be higher on this list. Number 3, Back to the Future. We just got through talking about that. And of course, Jaws the ride. Jaws. Just a phenomenal attraction in and of itself. Honorable mention today is Jimmy Neutron's Nicktoon Blast. I talked a little bit about it. It was the same concept as The Fantastic World of Hanna-Barbera, same context as Despicable Me. The difference was different shows. You dealt with Jimmy Neutron, Hey Arnold, and then of course going through Bikini Bottom where SpongeBob hangs out. The storyline revolved around Jimmy Neutron primarily. Ooblar, who's the brother of King Gooblot or whatever his name is an enemy of Jimmy Neutron, and they steal his newest rocket, and Jimmy's got to take his best friends Carl and his robotic dog Goddard and give chase to it. And in the chase they go through all these areas. Going through Bikini Bottom was to me clearly the highlight. Hey Arnold was cool too. Now my son watched these cartoons, and so I could relate to that, and it was good, but it wasn't any better than good to me, and it replaced one of my favorite rides in the Fantastic World of Hanna-Barbera, and because of that, I couldn't put it on the list, and that's why Jimmy Neutron's Nicktoon Blast comes in as your honorable mention. So here it is.
Hey, number 1.
Number 1, Confrontation. One of my all-time favorite attractions. I loved everything about it. I loved the queue. I mean, it was like being in a subway in New York City. I loved the ride. Even though the animatronic was clunky and dated, it still captured that element of fear and reality, riding on an above-ground train to escape Manhattan while Kong is unleashed on the city. The helicopter, oh, it's so good. There are plenty of videos on YouTube that you can see this. Don't miss it. It was such a great attraction. It's where the Mummy is now, and I liked the Mummy, but I liked Confrontation much better, and I would have switched those. I never would have changed this out. Maybe update it, maybe renew it. And I like Reign of Kong Skull Island too, but it's not the same. It's just not. Confrontation was great. It was themed around the 1976 film King Kong, which was a remake of the 1933 original. It opened on June 7, 1990, closing September 8, 2002, so it ran for about 12 years. It was manufactured by Aerodynamica and at a runtime of 5 minutes. And like I said, it was replaced by Revenge of the Mummy, but it was just awesome being face to face with Kong as he's terrorizing your tram hanging above the sky there in New York City. The theming was excellent from top to bottom. There was no part of this that I didn't like. It's another one of those attractions I would have waited a long time for, and I miss it. I wish they'd bring it back, or some version of it back, other than Reign of Kong Skull Island, because they're not the same. This was a great attraction, and like I said, at any time during the day, some of this order might change, but those are my top 5. But Confrontation was just a little bit better than everything else. If you were to say, hey, of all of these, you can only have one of them back, which one would it be? It would be this one. And for all of those reasons, Confrontation is the top retired attraction that I wish we still had. I'd go see it. I'd make a trip down there to see it. I love Confrontation, and I miss it. So hey guys, that's your list for today. Do me a favor, put your top 5 in the comment section. And remember, before this day is over, go out and do something amazing for somebody else. Go bless somebody else. Don't expect anything in return, and watch the amazing things that happen in your life. We'll see ya.